From Geppetto Studios in New Freedom, Pennsylvania, welcome to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, your home for inclusive, positive geek culture, where we talk about movies, comics, music, books, and whatever else we feel like. Please welcome your host,
your friend forever,
Brad Mendenhall.
Hey kids, it is episode 254 of the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. Making her debut is author Audry, with no E, Fryer. She is here to plug her new novel, Until Next Sunday, and talk about how nice I was to give her a spoon in high school. Gonna let you chew on that for a second. Anywho, Katie has a question.
If you were an animagus, what would be your animal form?
What's funny is there are people who are listening to this that are going to know the answer immediately. The way my life is broken up, and I'm sure this is the same for most people, there are certain questions that you can ask about yourself to the friends in your life that the answers will dictate sort of how they connect with you. If anyone was asked about this, it's like, what would Brad's animagus be? Anyone who knew me from the years between 1992 and 1997 would know the answer right away. I think a lot of people who I met and became important in my life after that or before that, I'd actually be curious of what their answer would be. It's been mentioned a couple times on this podcast, but not a lot, that Jarf, the first guest on the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast, back when under its old name, Movies at Marvel, and I did a radio show in college. And it was the Jarfketeer Show with Otter. And my nickname was Otter. Really, the way the nickname happened was I went to train to become a DJ for WLHU Radio, the Lock Haven college radio station. And the guys who trained me said, well, what's your name? I was like, my name's Brad. It's like, no, you need to have a DJ name. I was like, I don't know. And they just looked at me, it's like, Otter, because you look like Otter. And they were referring to the character from the Animal House movie, because I bared a little bit of a passing resemblance to Tim Matheson, who played Otter in that film. And, okay, I'm Otter. It took. And there's no real reason that it took. I just needed a radio name. Jarf would call me Otter, and then sometimes these things just get a life of their own. And there's a funny thing, and Jarf and I talked about this years ago on like one of the first episodes of the podcast, where if you get a nickname or show some sort of affinity for an animal, forget about it. That just becomes your thing. So for so many Christmases, I was given like Otter figurines, Otter stuffed animals, Otter t-shirts. I have 3 Otter t-shirts in my closet right now. One saying Otter Space with an astronaut otter, and one saying Otter Things, and it's a bunch of otters, but sort of posed and with the background to indicate the television show Stranger Things. That doesn't even make sense. I could be clever, or I don't know, egotistical. I don't know. It's like a brilliant white stallion. No, Otter. So definitely Otter. Very excited, making her Cosmic Geppetto debut, author Audry Fryer. Audry, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. It sounds good, author. That sounds good. Thank you.
It's nice. And you've been doing this for a year. For a while.
Yes, just what I just wrote it in a week and 1 year, and it's instant success. No, that's not true at all. I've been doing this for over 10 years. I self-published a couple novels and a short story. And then this came along, and I've been working on it for 5 years, actually, since 2016. It's been a whole process, but this is by far like what I'm most proud of. And now, because it's out there more than just my self-published works, It's definitely exciting. And I finally got my hands on the paperback. Everything I self-published before was an ebook. And the other day I got my hands on the paperback, and that was like an amazing feeling to actually hold something I wrote in my hands. So
I remember when I got my copy of my book, holding it in my hands, and I remember I would just I would hold it, and I was looking, I was like, oh my God, it's here, it's in my hands, it's in my hands. And I would go and do something else. And then I would just like come back into the kitchen where I was like, I got to hold it again. Like, it was just so amazing having that physical thing.
it's real. Yeah. Yeah. So that was amazing. The backstory is with self-publishing, and we were just talking about this a little bit earlier. It's difficult. Like, everything's on you, and for getting an editor, a cover design, so that's why I kept it simple with the first couple novels. I just didn't want to invest in what was kind of like a hobby. But when this opportunity came, it was actually my husband's uncle. He remarried, and now it's his aunt, and she had this stack of love letters. There were like over 110 love letters, and they wanted, her and her two other sisters wanted to make it into a book, a novel. Actually, they wanted to make it into a movie, which sounded really cool. But they decided to go with a novel because that was actually more doable. And so they came to me with like a stack of photocopied papers, and they're like, "Write the story. We'll give you a set amount for writing that, and then a portion of the profits from the book." And they took on a lot of the expense in editor and such. And that's what kind of made this possible for me to kind of go forward without taking on all that expense.
Self-publishing is such an investment in yourself.
Right.
It's worked. There have been so many very successful writers have started off, what was it, the Aragon Dragon series started off as self-publishing, the 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, yeah. How about that?
And even John Grisham. I remember John Grisham, who was a very successful lawyer, wrote his first book, basically bought 1,000 copies of the book because he was a man of means, went to libraries throughout the area and just donated his books to them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you have to be really a go-getter when you're self-publishing. You definitely, because it's a lot up front. It's a lot on you. And then you have to feel, if you're going to put it out there, you have to feel confident in your selling abilities. So that's something I've been working on. I've learned quite a bit, especially over like the last 5 years. There's been such a boom of like courses and people out there like doing this thing and finding success that share their knowledge. And it's been fantastic. I follow a lot of different people. I've read a lot. So I feel in a better position than I did when I was just writing a book for the fun of writing it and just putting it out there. Now it feels like I have some knowledge. I have to put it to the test now, but definitely some idea about what it takes.
The new book is coming out on the 14th of February, Valentine's Day. It's called Until Next Sunday.
Yep.
An historical romance novel. That seems to be something that, not necessarily historical, but there's a lot of romance in your books. For you, what are the prerequisites for a romance novel? Because that could be a sort of a loaded phrase.
Right. Yeah, so there's different types of romance novels. Obviously, there's the romance novels you have with the racy covers and such. Even the historical novels can be that a bit. This one is, I believe, we were working with a publisher, and she told us it's called a clean romance novel, only because, I mean, there's a couple little racy parts in it, but nothing to
clutch your pearls.
Yes, exactly. And, historical, it's set in the 1920s, 1921. Yeah, but I mean, that genre, other than thrillers, romance novels, general, not just historical, but that's your number 2 seller in books, believe it or not. Only second to thrillers. I think it's because, there's a lot of emotion in it. I mean, that's what, when you read fiction, I think that's the whole reason people go to read fiction is you get caught up in someone else's story, you escape into it, but it's the emotion that pulls you in and connects with the characters. So romance is full of emotion. I mean, this book is full of emotion. It's not just all lovey-lovey throughout the whole thing. I mean, there's the whole span of feelings throughout it.
It's funny because it's a genre that could be dismissed, but yeah, it's real popular. And part of it is everyone can relate to it.
Well, true.
Anything else sometimes takes a little bit of specific mentality or mood to get into it, or a leap to understand it. I mean, I'm looking around. To my left, I have Anatomy of a Song, the oral history of 45 iconic hits that changed rock, R&B, and pop. You got to be really into music to dig this.
Right.
To my right, I have a Christopher Buckley, a satirical political novel, No Way to Treat a First Lady, about a first lady that was accused of murdering her president husband. You got to be in the mood for some political satire for that. And not everybody is, but we I would say a vast majority of people have been in love or have had strong romantic feelings. It's so relatable. It also could be a real fun beach read. I mean,
Oh yeah. Oh, for sure.
I don't think it's any coincidence that I remember growing up and going to the shore, and you would go to every convenience store would have that section of the romance novels and all of that. And then maybe a Grisham or maybe I don't know, whatever is like really popular that year. But the romance novels didn't need a name to sell.
No, they don't. No. They're easy to read. You can escape into them. It's like a little vacation. It is true, a beach read. This would be great for a beach read because you can escape into it, caught up into the story without having to really work all that hard. Like you were saying, with maybe political satire might get you thinking about other things, or you might have to look into it, or even like literary fiction. I mean, that's like usually a little more slow moving, all the symbolism. I mean, this one it's a story about personal relationships. That's what I like to write about. Personal relationships, not just love, but like, between everyone, because that's life. So it just seems like that's what interests me when I go to write a story. I like that interplay between characters and how in a story, you start out one way and the character arc, and it's so satisfying at the end to see that the characters grow and change, and you can relate to that in your own life. So I think that's what people pick it up for. I think they pick it up, a little bit for an escape, and also you can relate to it. Definitely, there's something in a story that you can see in your own life, or that you lived. I think that's the draw of it, definitely, without having to live it and go through all the stress of it. That's a good thing about a story. It's all in those pages, and then it gives you a little time to like think about things from like a different point of view. So that's why and that's part of the fun of writing it too, kind of getting lost into that world for a little while.
Is there an author in the realm of romance novelists that you see as an influence or an inspiration?
Oh, well, the other two novels I wrote are more women's fiction. So this would be my first, they did have romance in them, love and relationships and things like that. So this was the first one that I would have categorized as a romance, because I read like a lot of mainstream authors. I mean, I like the beach reads for sure, like Ellen Hildebrand, and I like Jennifer Weiner, and yeah, these basically your women's fiction, Jodi Picoult, I read those. That's what I tend to read. And I think maybe a little of that came into this book because it does read, I think it keeps the pages turning. You know what I mean? There's no like really slow spots. Like you want to find out what happens next, and I think that's what I like about those stories. I can't really pick an actual romance book that I can think of that I've actually read recently, to tell you the truth. Which is tough because I'm pushing here I am, I've written an historical romance. There's always an element of romance though in those books. There's always some kind of something going on with that.
Oh yeah, it's funny how that gets pigeonholed, but then any book you read, most of them will have that aspect. And I wrote a coming of age fiction with a little bit of a wink to it, I guess. It was all about romantic entanglements, but it wasn't. I would never consider it a romance novel. It's like, but there's probably just as much relationship interplay and a fair amount of sex and sexual politics and all that going on in there. It's just how you categorize it.
Yeah, definitely. When I think about it, actually, more of the movies I watch kind of line up more with that with the romance, like the rom-coms and all those, than more what I've been reading. So I think that did play a little bit. There's a dramatic ending, and I definitely think it's from a lot of the romantic comedy movies that I've watched in the past.
What was the last good rom-com you watched? Because that's not a genre that's in theaters anymore.
I know it's not. And you know what? Like I finally got to watch The Holiday, over Christmas. I've always wanted to watch that. Isn't that the one where they switch houses?
Jack Black and Kate Winslet?
Yeah, yeah. I always wanted to watch it, and I think it came out when my kids were babies, and so of course I missed it. And yeah, so I just watched that. Right. No, there hasn't been that many recently, to tell you the truth.
It's sort of gone to streaming. I know there was the one that had a Keanu Reeves cameo, the Will You Be My Maybe?
Oh yeah, yeah. Will You Be My Maybe? I think I watched that one. Yeah, that was cute.
As we're talking, there's a lot of talk that the Peacock Network is going to have a Jennifer Lopez, Owen Wilson rom-com.
I did see that. My daughter and I were watching the preview for that, and we were thinking, this one seems really predictable, but I'll probably wind up watching it just for the fun of it.
Well, it's funny. It's really predictable. When I saw it, I was like, you know what? I know that Jennifer Lopez has done those movies before. She did a movie where she was a maid and fell in love with a rich guy played by Ray Fiennes. I guess it's considered a rom-com, but a little off-center of that, where Dance With Me with Richard Gere.
Oh, yeah.
Jennifer Lopez, who's very good at certain things, I don't actually buy her in a rom-com because she's not warm or likable. That's never her persona. It's very diva and a little detached.
Right. Yeah. I know. So they seem like an odd couple to wind up together in the movie.
Which I guess is the charm of it.
I mean, I like Owen Wilson. I'm like, in real life, this really wouldn't work.
When you think of the actresses who are really good at Reese Witherspoon, Jennifer Gardner, Sandra Bullock, they're all very likable and relatable and warm.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and that makes the movie. Because then it's like you feel like it's somebody you could be friends with.
So you don't buy Jennifer Lopez or Charlize Theron or even Gal Gadot. And everyone loves Gal Gadot, and I think Gal Gadot is great.
Oh, yeah.
But part of what makes them work is Gal Gadot is so otherworldly attractive and tall and glamorous that she doesn't even feel like a person.
Right.
I can only look at myself and look at Gal Gadot and it's like, yeah, we're the same species.
I know. That's true. Yeah, Wonder Woman, and yeah. And I think there was some other movie we just watched her in the other night. It was Red Notice. Very good.
But yeah, that's not a genre you see much anymore. They're finding new venues for it. So, but the other question, my follow-up was going to be, can you think of, and you sort of already have touched on this, is there a piece of entertainment, be it book, movie, TV show, whatever, that have sort of influenced your work that would surprise people? I'm thinking to myself where, when I wrote my book, there was a TV show called Boomtown. It didn't last real long, but it was really, really good. It was a cop show, and I do not write cop shows, but it had a neat narrative where it did a lot of telling the same story, the same scene from 3 or 4 different viewpoints. So you would see one scene, and then later it would be shown again from a different character's viewpoint, and you would like see stuff that you didn't see before.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's cool.
That really influenced my book because like, okay, you're going to see one character being nasty or curt or whatever, and then the next chapter is like, oh, it's from her perspective, and you realize, oh, she just went through a pretty dramatic breakup or challenges during class, and that's where it comes from, and I like that. So it was like a weird thing where this little-known, not very successful police procedural that was best known because Donnie Wahlberg was in it, and that influenced my coming-of-age college book. So is there something similar like, oh, you would be surprised that an influence to your writing has been whatever you can think of?
Okay, well, I don't know about surprised. I mean, first I'll start with like for this book, when I was writing it, I had 2 things in mind. One was the Notebook, of course, because that with the letters and the writing and the romance, and I had read that and watched the movie. And then Adriana Trigiani, she had written The Shoemaker's Wife, and I had really enjoyed that. And that was the story of her grandfather from Italy and her grandmother coming to America. So I had those 2 books kind of together as I was writing this one that were influencing. it because it felt like kind of a mash of those two. Yeah, I mean, other than that, I mean, I just, gosh, what would be a surprise to people? I do. I have read like, let's see. I mean, I've read a variety of things. I don't know what would be a surprise to people though. Actually, I mean, right now, my sister-in-law had given me a book called The President's Daughter, which is Bill Clinton and James Patterson. And it is truly a thriller, and it's very on the edge of your seat. And there's, I'm in the middle of it, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm reading this book because it's more intense than I would normally read. So I think people would be surprised that I'm reading that. But I mean, she wasn't wrong. It's very good. And I'm learning a lot about ratcheting up the tension of things, but there's no way I'm writing a thriller ever.
Thrillers are hard.
Yeah.
You sacrifice so much, and I appreciate a good thriller.
I am appreciating this, but the middle, I'm like, oof, but I'm going to keep reading.
Those books always struck me as like you basically have to be a chess player to put it together because it's all about how you move the pieces.
Right.
And often to the sacrifice of interesting characters or interesting dialogue because it's more about, hey, move the piece to the next spot.
Right. Yeah.
As a writer, that was never my strength. I was always like more interesting characters, and I did a lot of playwriting stuff. I always like dialogue.
Yes.
And you can't have like 2 pages of dialogue basically to show how clever everyone is. And that just grinds a thriller.
Oh, right. Yeah. It's all the action. Yeah, there's not much dialogue. It's short. It's quick. Everybody's talking in short, quick sentences all the time to keep that tension going, which keeps me flipping the pages. But then I'm like, oh, there's usually not a guarantee of a happily ever after in a thriller. So
as we're talking, the Jack Reacher show was just on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And I read the first Reacher book. And these are thrillers, and they're sort of mystery thrillers with a lot of action. I read that book, and I was like, well, this is crap.
Oh.
The dialogue was lousy, and some of the weird character motivations were weird. But it was compelling, and there was this wonderful movement to it. Even though I would keep saying, it's like, well, that's dumb. Why would he do that? Why would he say that? How come nobody says anything like really particularly smart or interesting? And I was like, oh, because that's not the point at all.
The point is to just pull you forward through the story.
The book was good, and it was a first book, so I was also being a little harsh because I know he's written 30 books. I'm sure they've all improved, and he sort of figured out what he had. They ended up making 2 movies and a TV show, and like just recently a TV show. It was funny. It was a book very much, you could tell. It was almost this book is screaming. It's like, this would be a great idea for a TV show. And it was. I watched the show. It was very enjoyable, and the stuff that didn't work in the book, they figured out how to make it work in the show.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, yeah, I think it's a second chance there. And yeah, they have to tighten it up probably too, like for a show, because you only have so much time. I can see that though. But sometimes it's usually the other way. Usually you like the book better than the movie or the TV show. It just depends though.
Well, there's been talk about that, how never try to make a great book into a movie because it can never live up to it.
Right. I mean, but we're hoping that this book turns into a movie, but we'll see. But then I'll just say, but my book was better. That would be a good problem to have, to tell you the truth.
Yeah, you can, while rolling around in your the money you get, Scrooge McDuck style. You don't want to write a thriller. You've been working on this for 5 years. Were you just working on this, or did you have other irons in the fire?
I was working on just freelance writing. I was doing that. Also, I'm originally a teacher, so it just went into writing because with having the kids and being home and not teaching at all. But throughout it all, I was teaching preschool like 2 days a week and doing a little tutoring on the side. So the 5 years wasn't like me intensely writing. Yeah. So I was just keeping up with all of that and writing different things. But that's been helpful because, writing in different ways helps strengthen when I do go to write a book. Like, it gives me more of an idea, especially when I was freelance writing, some of it was a little bit of like copywriting type things. And so trying to make things interesting. And I've just recently like set up my website now. My website was about freelancing, and then I decided to just have it go back to be more of an author website, which is what I originally had. I was on I was on Blogger originally when I first started writing my self-published books, and I've learned so much since then. I mean, I would just like basically write whatever I thought would be interesting, and I had guest posts of different authors on and such, and that was enjoyable. But it helped me. It helped me learn a lot from like these different authors and their guest posts. So it's been a whole process.
Do you know what's next?
Well, I mean, what's next? I'm not really sure. I'm thinking about a few different projects. One, and I keep joking about it. We finally went on this extended family cruise with my husband's family, and every time I go on a trip, I'll keep a travel journal. I like writing it down. I've been doing this since I think my mom started me actually when we would go on longer trips. She knew I like to write, and she would keep a journal of what we did, and you can look back and see different places and things. And we did that when we went to South Carolina, and we just went back with the kids again, and we read all those old journals. So I was thinking of doing something with these travel journals and making it a fictional family, because I don't want to.
Well, also, your real family isn't going to behave the way you want a fictional one to tell the story.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like, and taking like the format. So we finally got on this Disney cruise after, well, my mother-in-law originally planned it for March 2020, which our timing was amazing because, I mean, you couldn't have picked like a worse time to plan a cruise. So obviously it got canceled or postponed and postponed and postponed. And we finally went in December of this past year, 2021. And so I kept a journal of our adventures on the cruise. And I thought this, in a span of a week, how much could happen, especially with an extended family, and I was imagining what these characters were doing, but I figured they might be doing the same things we're doing, just with a lot more drama. I mean, it felt very exciting to me on the cruise, but so I was thinking that would make a really cool book. And I still I love the idea of the historical fiction. So I'm still I'm open to finding like another story that maybe I can dig deep into and kind of flesh out into a novel. But right now I don't have one right now, but I'm still thinking about it. I've been bouncing some ideas around. So, but between just getting this up and out, and promoting it, that's been my focus right now. But I do miss creative writing because there's just something about doing that's just so enjoyable until you have to edit it. And then that's all another process.
Well, yeah, editing's tough. And editing is so much of putting a book together and you do tend to fall in love with your own stuff. And I remember there was this section of my book, and I'm like, this has got to go. And it was hard. It was like putting a puppy down. I was like, I worked so hard on this. It was with so much effort. In and of itself, I liked this piece, but but it doesn't work.
Right.
Put that in a folder. Maybe I'll use it for something else later. But it's so much of a good book is editing and tweaking and cutting away the stuff that doesn't work and tweaking the stuff that sort of works. I think you see it with really well-established, wildly successful writers who become the 800-pound gorillas where no one's going to tell them what they can and cannot do.
Oh, yeah.
Stephen King has written a lot of really bloated novels where you could tell it's like, oh, if it was his first or second book, if you would give him a strong editor, this would be half the length and would pop so much better.
I was just talking about this with a friend, like the Harry Potter series got longer and longer and longer, and that last book went on way too long. I just wanted to have it wrap up.
Oh, it's like 200 pages of camping.
It was, and that I skimmed it, and I feel bad about skimming it, but I needed to get to the end. So yeah, exactly. Working with we had the sisters hired this phenomenal editor. I mean, basically my mind is a messy place, and I write, my books are like all this ADHD all over the place when I first start writing them. One sister suggested I get this program Scrivener that kind of helps organize your thoughts. I mean, it's a really difficult program in a way, like if you want to complicate it, you know what I mean? But I just kept it simple so I could just keep the chapters all separated and organize them better. And then finally, this editor, I mean, she was able to really pick out like, okay, this all needs to go, but here you didn't write enough. I think it's really made the difference because this is the first time I feel like really good about a book compared to my other ones. I like the other ones. They're very entertaining. And I did hire an editor for the first one that I did just because there were so many typos and line. It was more like a line editor, so I wouldn't feel embarrassed having it out in the world. But the difference that it made to make it flow better was definitely her eye, or she would just pick up on something, and I was like, oh yeah, that's not how I wanted it to sound at all to somebody reading it.
A good editor is invaluable. It will improve the content. It will help focus everything. We think of writers as sort of solitary, and there certainly is a level to that, but most writers have, hopefully you have a good editor. If not, for me, I just have several friends who I respect and appreciate their opinions, and they're very good at giving me constructive feedback, and it helped me basically function as an editor, except for I didn't pay them. All they got was like a thank you at the end of the book. I remember I always talked about how Harper Lee, she wrote one book, and it was because she had and one of the reasons is she didn't seem to find that inspiration a second time, and she had such wonderful support from her friends and editors and everything else, and it was such a group effort. And although it was definitely To Kill a Mockingbird was definitely her story, but she never had that perfect support and inspiration and good editing to help her get over the hump of her next story.
I think the bar was so high. You definitely feel you would feel that pressure.
It's hard when your book is the greatest American novel ever to then follow up.
Yeah. What do you go from there? Well, I mean, I wrote 2 I self-published and one short story, but then I wrote another one and I never did self-publish it because I did share it with some friends and they're like, maybe not your best work. And that one really needed an editor, and I kind of lost interest in it. So it does help to know when you want to put something out there. It's good to get that feedback, definitely. So we didn't really have like early readers that gave us too much feedback. We just went with the editor. But I think well, because the process was taking forever, so we didn't want to push off publishing it any longer. But I think that's super valuable because sometimes really good readers can point you in a direction that you need to go, or something that you're missing.
Audrey, something that we got to address. You and I went to high school together.
Yeah, we did. Do you remember me?
I do remember you. You remember me.
Kinda. Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's okay. We were not close. We didn't hang out. We never went to. We didn't hang out with a group that went to the roller rink together or anything like that.
We only graduated with like 200 people though.
I was a year behind you, which is also a thing.
Okay.
When you're in your 30s or 40s, the difference between 45 and 44 is not a big deal.
Yeah, but it's huge in high school.
Yeah, but the difference between 18 and 17 is big.
Well, yeah, I mean, I asked my dad. He remembers everybody. Oh, I remember that kid. He was a nice kid, as we said. But I don't know. Maybe he doesn't remember.
No, your dad definitely does not remember me.
He says he remembers every student. Well, he was a shop teacher, yeah, in the middle school. Yeah.
Okay. I don't remember your dad. I remember you.
And you remember? My husband is the year behind you, then, Scott.
Scott Fryer? I actually, I have the yearbook with me.
Okay, that's awesome. I should have went up in my attic and got mine.
Scott Fryer, Faust, Baroa, Fetterman, Fisher.
He was the year before. Yeah, he was. So I'm 91, so he would have been 92, and he's 93.
I'm looking at a picture right now. His picture in the yearbook is right next to my best friend from high school, Adrian French.
Okay.
who probably sat in front of your husband in every homeroom class.
Probably.
I think my junior year, your senior year, I sat like at the same lunch table as you guys.
Probably.
Because I think I was friends with somebody that you were friendly with.
Okay.
But I probably didn't say 2 words to you.
It's okay. My memories of high school sitting at lunch was just like laughing and being stupid. So hope you were entertained by all that.
But here's the thing. I do my yearbook, and I went through the back. You signed my yearbook.
All right. I need to go up and see it. Maybe you signed mine. I have to go find it now. I'm like, oh, I didn't prepare very well for this.
Honestly, I don't want to act like I prepared for this. My bookshelf is right by my desk. And I walk by, it's like, oh, wait a minute. I think I might have my yearbook. Here it goes.
What did I write?
You said, Brad, to a really nice guy, 2 exclamation points. All right. Thanks for taking up my trash and handing me a spoon at lunch.
Oh my God.
Have a great summer. Good luck in all you do. YFF, your friend forever.
Well, I'm proving that now, I think, right?
Yeah, I really feel bad that we haven't talked. If we're friends forever.
There's no expiration on that.
No expiration. But it was funny. We have a couple of mutual friends, Tracy Sloniker, who has also written a couple of books.
Yes. Yeah. I communicated with Tracy like a little while back, right? She did the books based on the Angelmen. Yeah, that was cool.
She follows your Facebook page, which we recommend everyone do.
Thank you.
And when I saw it, I was like, oh, yeah, Audrey. And again, I don't know. I really don't know if you and I ever said more than 3 words to each other.
Well, apparently you were very nice.
Apparently I gave you a spoon when you were hungry.
I needed that. And you took up my trash. How sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. I know that I had a friend who had a crush on you.
Okay. That's I mean, I felt like in high school, like, I was like, no, that can't be.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you were, we have not talked in over 20 years. I haven't seen you for 20 years. I do see your pictures of you and your gorgeous family.
Oh, thank you.
You're still a very attractive woman. You were really cute. I do remember thinking you were cute in high school.
Well, thank you.
Again, but you were so much more older and mature.
I don't know about mature.
Again, to a 17-year-old kid, and I was so wrapped up in my own head, as most of us are.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But I know I had at least one friend who had a crush on you. Not that you were the love of his life or anything like that, but it was definitely, you're sitting with so-and-so, so-and-so. It's like, yeah, it's like, oh, yeah, she's really cute. And I was like, okay. I gave her a spoon.
That's cool. Yeah. No, I mean, my memories of high school are just like, I've been kind of awkward, like,
we all survived it.
Yeah. And I felt like my dad being like the 9th grade football coach, like I felt like he told every boy to stay away from me.
Well, especially the football players.
Yeah.
Did he actually do that? Or are you just worried about it?
He might have. I think is my worry. I should ask him, but he might have. Except Scott didn't listen. He wound up, but we were only friends in high school. So I met up with him after I graduated college, actually. And we met up a local place that's not even there, out at Center Square, out 202 and 73. We were like, hey, that was it.
You say that, and my kids are a little younger than yours. I have a 12-year-old, and my twins are going to be 10.
Oh, you have twins too. Boy and girl, or
boy girl?
See, I mean, it's a Springford thing.
My daughter getting to 10, and she's a little cutie, and I get a lot of the, what are you going to do when the boys come around the house? And it's like, I know that was and that's always been a thing, like the whole cleaning the shotgun when some boy wants to come and talk to your daughter stuff. It's like, I don't really want to do that. And the thing I said is like, I don't want, and maybe I'm too hippy dippy or whatever. I don't want my kids to think that every person who comes around is someone that they have to be protected from. Also, knowing my daughter's like, they're going to be the ones that need to be protecting from her. She's a little beast. She has the personality of an MMA fighter.
You don't have to worry about it then. But yeah, I know it is a little cliche to be like, "Whoa, I'm gonna scare you off." I have teenagers, and I know the pandemic hit, so we haven't had like boyfriend, girlfriends around here. So I know that that's going to be happening soon, though. I mean, my daughter's pretty tough though, so I don't know, MMA fighter, but she can. She's the smallest one. She's not even 5 foot, but she can take on anybody. She won't back down, definitely. So
I remember somebody once asked me when when I thought my kids were going to grow up to do, and I was like, well, my oldest, he keeps talking about he wants to be a vet.
okay.
My younger son, he's very methodical, and it's like, he's got the brain of an engineer. It's like, what about your daughter? It's like, did you ever see that Jean-Claude Van Damme movie where he would have his fists taped and he would put glass on the back, glue glass on the back of it, and like get into fights that way? He's like, yeah, that's gonna be London.
So yeah, you have nothing to worry about. You're
Listen, the only thing I have to worry about is her.
or the other people coming near her.
That's their problem.
They have to definitely.
Audrey, I need you to plug your pluggables. Where can people find out? Where can people go to buy your stuff? And you have your book club, your reading challenges. Where can they find out more about you?
Yeah, my website's a great place to go and start, especially about the book and about me. I have my Facebook author page. I have Instagram. Both are Audrey Fryer author. If you're looking for that. And then I just posted a few articles on Medium if anybody's on that. The book's on Amazon right now, Kindle, and then it's going to be on the Smashwords, which I believe is like Barnes and Noble, all of that. So that's coming up soon. I think that's basically all the places that you can find me. Definitely my website's the hub, www.audreyfryer. And the thing about my name is that Audrey has no E.
Yeah, that's how I knew specifically was you signed my book, because there was no E in the Audrey. I was like, okay, that's definitely her.
There's no E. There's no E. My mom was a fan of Audrey Hepburn, who does spell her name with an E, but dropped the E because she didn't like the way it looks. And actually kind of works out because now my first name and my last name are 5 letters each. So it's nice and balanced and neat looking, I guess. And I'm the only Audrey out there. I mean, there are probably Audreys out there without an E, but there's very few. So it kind of makes me a little more unique.
Well, maybe that's why you like the romance stuff, because Audrey Hepburn did some amazing rom-coms.
Oh, yeah. I've seen My Fair Lady and I saw Breakfast at Tiffany's. I think I got a DVD of that once. I just had to see it because, it's named after her. And yeah, I mean, she was amazing.
Breakfast at Tiffany's is so good as long as you just skip past the Mickey Rooney yellow face stuff.
Oh, yeah. That was an odd part. That didn't make sense.
It's just a very, very, very different time.
It was right. It was made for, and it is interesting to watch these older films, and it definitely, yeah. But I like when she was singing Moon River. That was pretty cool.
Really good movie. True story. Starred George Peppard, probably best known to people our age as Hannibal from the A-Team TV show.
Ah, I didn't realize that's what else okay.
A distant relative of his is a frequent contributor to this show, Dr. Anna Peppard.
Okay.
She is from the same Peppard family as George. A-Team? She's like, A-Team. I was like, oh, okay. Audrey, this has been great. It's been great catching up.
Yeah, it has. Thank you so much.
Can I convince you to come back?
Oh, yeah, sure. Definitely. This was really fun.
We'd love to have you back. Talk about other writing that you have upcoming. Maybe get you to come back and maybe like review a rom-com or two.
Yeah. If there's any out there, I know, I mean, the rom-coms, yeah, over the holidays, I mean, I had like on background as I'm doing all the wrapping, all those Hallmark movies and such. Those are always good. And Netflix trying to mimic those. So yeah, very predictable.
Yeah, that's what makes them fun. You know what's going to happen. You don't really want too big a surprise at the end.
No, I want something that I can just glance up and see and then be like, I knew they were going to get together from the first 5 minutes.
Fantastic. Well, we'll definitely do this again. I appreciate it. This has been awesome.
That is wonderful. Thank you so much.
That's episode 254. Big thanks to my friend forever, Audrey Fryer. She was a delight. Please buy her book. Read it. Give her an awesome review on Amazon.com. Speaking of friends forever, big thanks to Katie May. Another great question from one of my favorite people on the planet. Next time on the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast. This is a good one. Scott Corelli makes his return for our annual summer movie preview. It's so much fun for me, and I hope you like it as much. Till then, in the words of Jarv Harden.
See you in the funny pages.
Subscribe to the Cosmic Geppetto Podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever quality podcasts can be found. Rate and review us while there. Follow us on Twitter at CosmicGPod, and we will follow you back. Unless you're a jerk. We don't follow jerks. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cosmic Geppetto. We love hearing your ideas for upcoming episodes. Email us at cosmicgeppetto@comcast.net.
Otter, 'cause you look like Otter.